Welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna show you a chess match between me and Martin Chavez. First of all, friendly reminder, that was a Blitz game, 3-minute match with 2-second edit per move. So it's not a great game or it's not a faultless game because we don't have a lot of time. Also, you can see our time in here. Let's get in the game. Martin started with e4 and I replied with e5 and came knight to f3 and knight to f6. Okay, that's Petrov's defense. I like to play Petrov defense in black pieces. Knight captures e5 and pawn to d6 to keep that knight to back. And my turn, I captures his pawn. Okay, he take my pawn and I take his pawn. It's equal position. He put that queen to a2, so he has a maintain pressure on my knight. How can I protect that? Obviously it can't go back because it's pinned. If I protect by d5, he will play pawn to d3 and he will win my knight and game over. Anyway, he comes queen to d7, avoiding pawn to d3. Instead form a position if I could go back now, and that's why I exactly did. He wanted to trade our queen, takes and takes. Bishop to g5 to developing bishop and preparing long castle. Short castle and he move his knight c3 to stick long castle plan. Knight to c6 and he did a move that what was we expected before. And I made a move rook to a7 to bring my rook in open file. And he did what I did. But there's a difference, because he has a threat. If I go something like this rather than bishop to a6, obviously he will take my knight with last square bishop, and I can't capture his bishop by my bishop because it pinned. If I take with bishop, my rook is hanging and he will take, and it's checkmate. So I cannot take with bishop. Pawn has to take, and that's not a good structure for black. And my king is open. So that's why I played e6. By the way, look at the time. I didn't spend so much time. He played knight to b5 and he wanted to capture free pawn on b7. And if he could, one of my rooks are gone because it's fork. So black should really consider this threat. Let's look what blacks did. Blacks did nothing. I mean, blacks want to kick that bishop back, but white simply can take knight after he could play knight to c7, and that's why I miss it. Of course, I saw white's one move threat, but I didn't consider nicely, so he find the idea what I mentioned. Knight takes, pawn and rook. So what was the cost of that blunder? When we look at the board, we simply say white is winning. If white plays nicely, absolutely will win the game because black down 3 points material. It's really a tough position for black. He's ahead 3 points material and he has passed C or D pawn. If he advances to the 8th rank, it can be a little tiny problem for black. Nevertheless, black have an advantage too. Black have a bishop pair. If he use bishop pair nicely, he could gain some attacking options. Chavez made a move and I made a pawn move to reach his pawns and make a pawn break. If I could do that, will be huge space for my bishops and these bishops will be deadly. This was my plan. c3, a5, d4, b4. I'm sticking to my plan. He can move pawn to d5, hoping to fork because I easily can take this. And he didn't want to split his pawns with taking b4 and allowing open up a file. And he played c4. And now d5 is a threat. So I didn't want to give up my bishop or knight. So I put back knight to e7. He pushed his pawn and I pulled it back to my bishop too. He played bishop to d3, developing the bishop and connecting the rooks, and I'm still sticking to my plan, a4, a3. And he didn't take my pawn and he shut that door off. I mean, I don't have a pawn break anymore, so it's so bad for me. But now I have a great weapon. This bishop have a huge range and he sees every important square on this diagonal. Okay, games continue. Knight to g6. I wanted to play more solidly and I wanted to move this bishop, and I can't do that before because otherwise knight will be hanging. And after that he take my knight. I think it's a nonsense because my knight was doing nothing here and his last square bishop better than my knight. But it's a blitz game, so yeah. White wants to play this out on the board. He wants to open up h and g file, and I played h5. I'm offering pawn trade to fix my structure, and he didn't accept. Knight to h2, and I made a mistake by moving the rook to a file. Because he can trade our pieces, and that will be unpleasant for me because I'm down material, so I have to keep this piece in the board. He pushed f pawn and I played rook to f7 to avoid the rook trade because I don't want that. And he wants to double up his rooks. And after that I finally find the perfect square for my powerful black bishop. Now I think it's more valuable than rook. If I played this position with white pieces, definitely I want to sacrifice my rook to take this bishop and pawn because they are so powerful. Anyway, he doubled up his rooks and I pulled the bishop back. It's funny, but yeah, because I was afraid it would come to a7 with his rook. It could be a bad move, but look at this file, e1, e3 and e4 guarded. He can only came to e7 squares and I didn't want to pull back my bishop. f4, pawn takes g4 and pawn takes g4, and here comes f7. Now I'm protecting all these squares, now I can go b2 for good. Look at this king now, he is surrounded by my bishop and his own pawn. He can't go here and here and here. There is only one square to escape for king. White didn't see my threat and he blundered. But it's okay because he didn't have so much time. So if I check the king, there's only one square to escape. And if I close that escape square, it will be checkmate. And I did what I have to do. Here comes bishop to f5 with check. Obviously he can't move with his king, there's no escape room. That's why he must blockade with his rook. And he has only one move. He has to play rook to c2 instead of rook to a4. It's very hard to see the difference between these moves, especially if you are in time trouble. Anyway, he played rook to e4 and I found a winning move in 4 seconds. You can pause the video and try to find this idea. I give you a couple seconds. Instead of taking rook with bishop to equalize position, I played this beautiful move. Yes, rook is hanging, but no one can take it. You can capture with your rook. I mean, of course you can, but your king will be dead. And nobody can touch the rook. It's untouchable. And after that, I won a rook. I give him a rook and he give me double rook. That's a really fair trade. And knight. One rook to double rook and knight. It seems good. Now all I have to do is eliminate this guy and promote a pawn to queen. After a couple moves, I won that pawn. And there is it's game over. I won a game, but that's not so important because it's Blitz game and low rating match, of course, but I think it was a good game. I was down in material, but I had a powerful bishop pair and I used that nicely. So thank you to watching this video. Okay, goodbye.